Hi guys, welcome back to day 18. The boys have left this morning. Now I'm just left with one baby and one dog who's here, who has just had her bath and she smells so good.
We are super tired, so if our energy is a bit low, please forgive us. Because the BBs only come over for like a weekend, 2 days max, really, because it's just over the weekend. It means we really want to make use of our time when we're together, so we're constantly doing things. So I think on average we only had 6 hours sleep over the last 3 nights, and even last night we slept at like 1, 2.
And Peter
and they
and
had to wake up at 7.
Peter and I are like must get 8 hours of sleep people. Like I'm 7.5 minimum. If not, we don't really function. Like today was essentially a write-off. It's a Monday here, but I woke up at 6:30 and had to do some things, had some meetings, and then I took like a 15-minute nap, but that did not cop it. So the whole day, whole morning, for the first 3 hours, I was just so tired, and I was like, okay, I better take one of my short-acting ADHD meds just so I can get a little bit of things done, which is good. So I got all the returns sorted. The returns are downstairs, by the way. I took out a pot. Peter is redecorating this place. As you can see, there are some different colored pillows now behind me, which Peter has done. So we bought like a huge ass pot, which I had to unpack. It was sitting there for probably 5 days because no one wanted to unpack it. Yeah, so I got some things done. And then Peter did some video processing, which I used to have to do. But then I think he saw how ridiculous it was when I did it. And it was always
There's always something wrong.
There was something, yeah.
There's always something wrong or something missing, and it was such a headache. I'm like, just let me do it. At least when I do it, I know where everything is and that everything's accounted for. I have a system.
So video processing is like after you finish a shoot for whatever reason, you need to organize all the footage because you can't just leave it on the SIM card. You need to transfer it to a hard drive or to cloud or whatever, and then you have to organize everything. What is for what footage? Oh, actually, that footage, did you separate it into 3 different shoots?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you already did it. He already did it. So, see, isn't he amazing? He's just the most wonderful one. So, remember the other day we were talking about introverts and extroverts?
Yep.
And then you said that my example was terrible because anyone who's put next to anyone else, random, is not going to enjoy it. But then Lucas reached out to me and he says he disagrees with you because he's actually the type of person, if you put him in front of a random person, he's excited. So he gets energy from it. So he disproved your point, which brings me back to my other point that I like to bring up a lot, that our worldview is so influenced by how we perceive the world. So you could not fathom in your mind that there was anyone out there who, again, put them in front of a random person that they would get energy out of it. But apparently there are people that exist. And this is not some like random somewhere that I found. This is a friend. But again, this is a limited sample pool, so it's not that accurate.
And also to clarify, I did say 99% of people. And he is one person out of how many people watched the last episode or last video.
Does anyone get like... So I think, what was the example that I gave?
If you put an extrovert next to someone completely random, they would be excited by it, or they would gain energy from it. If that's the definition.
Oh, like not be drained by it. Like Peter's, if you did that to Peter and I, the probability is definitely greater than 50% chance that we'd be drained. Probably like 90% chance we'd be drained.
It would be like, why am I here? What do I even talk about? How long is this going to go for? When can I leave?
Oh, and then in other news, I'm going to show and tell my new tissue box that Joelle got. This is my new tissue box that I got from Muji. It is this is the most incredible thing. So I've been looking for a good tissue box for ages, and then I saw this design online, which was like some creative custom art piece, but essentially this part for that tissue box goes down with the tissue, which resolves the issue. You know, when the tissue box is half empty and the lower it gets, the more annoying it is to fish tissues out of there. This resolves the issue because it keeps dropping with it, so it keeps it compressed and tight. Anyway, one thing to note, this is from Muji. It's acrylic. Joelle and Dan were looking for it for I think, a long while, and then they finally found it here, and I saw them buying it, so I got 3 for our house.
We emptied their whole stock.
We did. One thing with acrylic that we found out, do not clean it with alcohol. You remember I was cleaning it downstairs, like, why is it smudgy?
You melted it.
I don't know, but alcohol reacts with it and makes it smudgy. And then Joel was like, he's previously cleaned his with alcohol, so it wasn't an issue. And we were really confused because only the top was smudged, and we also did the side. We wiped the sides with alcohol, but the sides were fine. So this was like, became almost frosted and blurry when it's supposed to be clear and amazing. Then I went online and I was going to be like, how do you fix this? And ChatGPT is like, you can buy acrylic polish or something like that. And the acrylic polish is literally the cost, like 3 of these equals 1 bottle of acrylic polish. I'm like, okay, well, that's stupid. I might as well just go buy new ones. But then I was smart. I didn't stop there. I asked ChatGPT, is there anything else I can use? And it suggested toothpaste. So toothpaste, you know how it cleans your teeth? It's almost like very, very fine grit sandpaper. So if you use sandpaper on this, it's going to scratch it. But if you use a really, really fine grit sandpaper and you polish it, that's how polishing works, you know. You use like finer and finer grit stuff, and then you get a smooth surface. Did you know that?
Makes sense.
It does make sense, right? And then I polished it, and then now the one in the office is back to normal. The one downstairs is still scratched, but it doesn't really matter because, guys, it's white. So you cannot really tell that it's scratched. So it doesn't really matter, but I'm very pleased with this tissue box.
Can I offer a product, my personal product use case review? When I was pulling this out, maybe because it was too full, it
yes.
picked up the lid and then
You threw the lid.
fell off.
Oh my God,
So now then I looked at it and I'm like, what is this tissue box? It broke from me pulling out one tissue.
At least you didn't crack it.
That is one review. And also, when it's not full like this, it is God-forsakingly ugly.
What? No, it's fine.
It is so ugly.
It's not. That's not ugly when it's not full.
I would use the tissue box and having to dig out that tissue when it's
Absolutely
only
not.
a quarter full.
The tissue box is on my side of the bed, and whenever you want a tissue, Taki, can you grab me a tissue, please? And I'm the one who's like fish my hand, and I hate the sound of plastic. We had here in Vietnam, paper tissue boxes like made of cardboard are not that common. They're usually made from plastic, like a plastic bag. I don't know how to describe it. Plastic bag, that's all I can describe. And you pull it out. So every time I have to go get it in the middle of the night when he wants a tissue, it's like.
The sound of plastic is better than the sound of nails on cardboard. Oh, thinking about that was just.
But this acrylic one is just like, look, it's a nice sound. Anyway, yes, I did overfill it, and I was going to warn you, but obviously you grabbed the tissue before I could warn you, because I don't want it to have to refill this too many times. You know what I mean? That's an inconvenience. Someone needs to make like a 1.5 times height version, but then you still have to like stuff your finger in to get it. But I guess it's like easy to grab. So that's my new tissue box that I'm very, very pleased with, and I highly recommend it. And I don't actually think it looks as ugly as Peter said when it's half empty. In other news, I saw, you know how we're talking about a quad relationship structure? Well, that's what we were talking about yesterday. If you watched the vlog, you would know. Yeah. Then I saw this reel today about just different types of families with children. And there's this one family somewhere, I think it might be China or Taiwan, that there's a guy and a girl, they're best friends, and they each have like a gay partner. So the girl has her lesbian lover and the guy has his gay lover. Anyway, so the guy and the girl, through artificial insemination, decided to have a kid because they both wanted to have a kid. And so now the kid has 2 sets of parents taking care of them. So the kid spends like some time with the lesbian couple and then some time with the gay couple. And that got me thinking, like, wow, there are so many possible relationship models or like family models that we just don't even consider because we live in a heteronormative world. Like, I think a lot of people's criticism is like, you need everyone needs a mother and a father figure. I wonder what their criticism of this would be. It's like, no, I guess I said you needed a mother and a father figure, but now you only have one mother and one father figure. Otherwise you're going to be confused. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think people don't realize that you're right. There are a lot of alternate family structures. For instance, in Asia or other countries that's not like US, Australia, it's pretty normal to live with uncles, aunties, your grandparents in the same house.
Oh, yeah,
Technically,
that's so
you're
true.
raised with multiple, depending on how close they are to you, they're basically multiple parents, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of Asian countries is very communal. Your next door neighbor, you'll see them every single day, and they will also tutor you after school sometimes. They will join you for dinners half the time, half the week. So those are also, I get like alternate, slightly different family structures that a typical Western perspective doesn't account for.
That's so true. I completely forgot about that because what am I called? Like a two culture kid? Because my family's from Malaysia and we went back to Malaysia every single year. I'm so used to living in like Western culture where it's literally my mum, my dad, my brother, and I in one house. And then when we go back to Malaysia, it's literally like three families under one roof living with my grandma. And they all live there, grandkids, my uncles, my cousins, all in one roof. And that was so normal. It completely slipped my mind that that is not normal in Western culture. And then when I went to UK for exchange as well, again, it's like Malaysia, the house is quite big, but in London, I've got family there as well. It's not a big house. It's really not a big house. And they've got three families living under one roof again. And it's like, holy shit. And even when I visit, you just like, okay, yeah, when you ask them, can we stay over? They're like, yeah, of course, we've got space. And then you're like sleeping onto the bed with like my cousin and my dad, I think my brother as well, or something, or someone was sleeping on the floor. But like everyone just makes it work and makes it fit. So the point being, there are so many family models that we are not exposed to. And I even forgot that I've been exposed to by the sheer fact. Why did I forget? No, I forget because I forgot because I forgot. But there are so many family models that we're just not exposed to that could work. Which brings me to my next point. I was watching another Instagram reel today whilst I was on the toilet. And it was this girl, she was shaving her head. And then she's like, are you going to ask me why I'm shaving my head? But the point of it was, she's like, I shave my head because I don't like hair. And let me remind you that everyone has free will. So if I want to do it, I can. But we live in a world where we're so driven by having to live a certain way, what's normal, that everyone has hair. So, and if a female doesn't have hair, people start to question why. But in this case, it's literally because I decided I don't want to have hair. Everyone assumes like I have cancer or I'm going through something, that's why I've shaved my head. But she's like, this should be a reminder to everyone that you literally have free will to live how you want. So if that means, and the conclusion I take away from this is like, if you want to be in a quad, be in a quad. If you want to
be mono, you can be mono.
Yes, exactly. But assess what works for you and make that decision based off your assessment rather than making a decision based off what society has taught you is the way that you're supposed to live. Does that make sense? And then can I tell you about my next point? Also related to Instagram. So shoes. If you think about a shoe, guys, this is related. I'm not side tangenting that much. A shoe has like a pointy top, right? Yes? Shoes generally kind of curve inwards at the top. If you think about a sports shoe.
A top?
The front of the shoe, sorry. The front of the shoe where your toes are, they generally curve inwards. But if you look at the shape of my foot, which you're looking at now, that shape is not correct. A triangle, like an upside down triangle shape, is more suited to my foot shape, everyone's foot shape. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there are these people that have started creating shoes that are better fit to the actual shape of human feet, right? Which seems like, oh my goodness, that makes such logical sense. But the top comment that had so many likes is, I can't respect myself if I wear these. So even though the shoes would be much more comfortable, it was so interesting to me that everyone's concern is more like, I'm going to be judged by other people if I wear these. That's essentially what the comment was saying. Like, I can't respect myself. It's like, other people are going to judge me like shit for wearing these triangle shaped upside down shoes, which don't look like regular shoes. So it just really got me thinking about what else in life am I doing because of my fear of judgment from other people, rather than doing what might be the most comfortable or best for me. And it's probably a lot of things. It's probably like how you dress, how you style your hair, how you eat when you go out for a restaurant. I don't know, there's probably heaps of things. And I feel like the people who are maybe the most put together probably care the most and maybe live the least, this sounds like harsh criticism, but the least authentic lives, because they care so much about the opinions of others or the specific way that things should be based on societal norms.
But do you understand why these norms exist? Because I think you're seeing the downsides of it, which is fine. But do you understand why they even exist, or why do humans even choose to follow these practices, these norms, these cultures?
Yes. I think it's about identity and belonging, and having a sense of identity and belonging to a community is so important, which is why kind of when we came out that we're in a quad, some of the gay community is like, that's not right. And when I researched more into it, it's them protecting their sense of identity, and what they believe to be right helps them fit into a certain community. So when we stepped outside of that, we almost policed harder, because it's their way of reinforcing that their identity is one that is real and one that actually means something to them, and so that they can belong to a group. So I think it's that. And then the other thought that I had was the reasons why norms exist and there is like expectations and ways to do something. From a brain perspective, it's a lot easier to process and think in terms of what is the norm, rather than, oh, I need to do something differently every single time, in every single circumstance. What I wear, what I'm going to eat today. So the brain, as you grow older, it feels like there's less new things because it's turning on autopilot for a lot of things. For example, when you brush your teeth, you don't no longer need to think about how to brush your teeth. And I think these really basic, I guess, automations in your life continue and connect all the way through to even societal expectations, right? I don't know how to explain. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? No, you don't. Oh my goodness. There's a certain, it's easier for your brain when there are patterns, right? And it's not just about, is the car going to turn left, or is that car in front of me going to turn left or right? That's why sometimes when you drive, you can turn on autopilot and you don't have to focus that much, but you still get there safely. But it's also about societal norms, like what is acceptable. Oh, this is what a family looks like. A mum, a dad, and a kid. So it becomes easier from a mental load perspective, I think holistically for humanity, when there are social norms. You don't have to think so much per se, so you don't expend so much brain energy.
Interesting perspective. Mine is more of a like humanity benefit, in terms of, let's say there are two tribes communicating with each other. If they have completely different norms and cultures, it's almost guaranteed that they're not going to be able to communicate with each other, and they'll probably end up in conflict, right?
Yes.
So I see norms as a part of, is it fitting in, and also just helping the community progress in a way that's quote unquote efficient. Because the more friction there is in a community, there is less unity, right? All of this is just the technical terms for everything. that's the reason I see why these like cultures, rules, whatever, blah, 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 they exist, because without it, it's definitely worse than having it. Basically, in every single circumstance, not having rules or laws will always be better than not having. Basically, in almost all circumstances, right?
I think I agree. If not, there's too much disorder. It makes it very hard to live.
I think humans are just basically a rule-based society, actually. Even if you think about like, regardless of like laws, if you go all the way back to like cavemen, there's probably rules, familial rules, right?
I think
don't
so.
go here, don't go that, don't touch that.
Yes.
So I think humans are just a rule and law-based society, which means we function based on safety, a sense of safety, what we consider or recognize as normal, as safe, because we're uncertain of the things that we do not know or have never heard of or uncomfortable with.
Yes. This reminds me of your point the other day. I don't know if you were talking here or somewhere else, where it was, why are humans so fearful of everything that they're unaware of? And we realize you're taught from a very young age. Like I was again watching another reel on Instagram, and there's this teacher telling the kids, don't touch these mushrooms. If you don't know what they are and you're not 100% sure, don't touch them and don't eat them. Like you're taught from a very young age to proceed through life with caution. And I was like, why? That sounds so stupid. But then we came to the realization, this is not a game. You have literally like one life. If you GG and like die, you don't get to come back. So you have to proceed with caution, and that's passed down generationally.
Technically, biologically, yes.
Biologically, yes. To proceed on everything that you're unsure about with a lot of caution. And caution equals like fear in most instances, I think. So for example, when you see a quad relationship, you are more likely to be fearful of it than to be like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing, which kind of makes sense. But then I guess the blessing of human intellect is to be able to sit and think through all these things and determine what is actually a risk to my life, which in this case, our quad relationship is not a risk to your life unless someone can convince me otherwise. What was that example you gave about fire?
It was probably something like, things that are dangerous, such as fire, is not something that you should always run away from, because fire has been a massive progression for human society. So just because something makes you scared or can hurt you or will hurt you, doesn't mean you should avoid it, like fire, electricity. We all know those things are dangerous and have killed a lot of people, but we still use it because it is ultimately better for society.
So my point and conclusion based on that is, just because you're scared of a quad relationship doesn't mean it can't have benefits also. So tread carefully, but be open-minded.
Anything, not just quad relationship. Anything that scares you, you should reassess and think, why does it scare you? And whether that's an instinct or it's reason. Or
very true.
It's a reflex or it's reason. Is there actual good reasoning behind it, or is it just a trained response? Yes, you may feel fear, or there are people who feel fear, uncertainty towards a lot of things. It's very normal. It's nothing to be ashamed of. For instance, I remember one, I don't think it's story or advice, a friend got from a therapist or counselor, is that things that you run away from is probably based on something in your childhood trauma, and you need to assess whether it's coming from the childhood trauma or something and confront it, rather than just leaving it as an instinctive fear, such as like running away from your problems, or you have a fear of, I don't know.
Why do you have a fear of asking people for things? Where does this come from? Does this come from your childhood trauma?
Asking for things.
Asking people for things specifically.
I was shy since 2000 and before 2008, I don't remember. As far as I remember, I've always been shy. As in, never wanted to ask for anything. I remember one time I wanted to get a boost and my parents gave me money, like, go talk, it's okay. Just ask for whatever drink you want. And I'm just like, what the hell am I doing? I don't know what to do.
That's why usually...
Like, they've tried to like push me to talk, but I've always being shy. But I wonder where that comes from. You're right, because it's. But also, I have started believing that humans are like the whole nature versus nurture debate. There is a larger chunk than we think that is nature, rather than just purely everything is nurture.
Nature is genetics, isn't it?
But as in like personalities.
So my ADHD is nature or nurture?
Nature, because it's biological.
Biological. Yes, correct. So yeah, I think scientists have started to prove that a lot comes from nature. That's like the gene pool and everything.
So what I mean is when you see like a really disbehaved child, your first instinct is always it's the parents, right?
Correct.
But how much percentage is it the parents? Is it? I used to think it was 100% the parents.
Yes.
But now I'm thinking maybe it's only 90 or 85.
100%. Like the kids who are the rowdiest and getting told off, half of them have ADHD. They're running around like off their faces yelling because they have an inability to control their attention and sit still. So I think it's a large percent nature. I don't think it's like shitty parenting, because like me, I was like already a bit of a naughty kid. I would touch things I wasn't supposed to and I would get told off. And I'm already like holding my shit together, trying to control myself. So if someone is born with slightly less self-control than me, then obviously that's going to manifest as the kid running around the shopping
But
center.
that's because you have a
off.
mental condition. I'm talking about just
Like perfectly normal kids?
not perfectly normal, as
On
in
the bell
those
curve?
without ADHD
Yep.
and without autism.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty, is it obvious? It's pretty obvious those with those mental, disorders?
But you got to remember, it's all a scale. So you don't just either have ADHD or have autism, or you don't. It's like the percentage to which you have. So yes, there are kids who are really severe that it's really easy to identify, but then there's everyone on the spectrum in between. Like you have to remember that normal does not exist. Normal is a construct of a bell curve of an average of everyone. So technically no one is actually normal. There are people who are like close to normal and more normal than other people, but it's just an average of everyone. So it's like, what is normal eyesight? There's like really good eyesight and there's normal eyesight. That's all based on a bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in your example where there's like the naughty kid, they're no, your point could be, I'm not sure if this is your point, I'm just trying to clarify, that the kid could be naughty not because of the parents don't give a crap, but because they might have a condition. They might have a greater percentage. They might be more likely to have a condition than some other kid who's like, seems very well behaved. This is going to get really convoluted, but I just had a really interesting thought. But isn't the way that the parents parent the kid, may that also not be related to genetics or something? For example, let's say we have a parent and their level of patience to deal with the kid who's screaming and out of control. Some parents will be able to mentally have a lot of patience, and some parents don't have a lot of patience, which is why it results in that kid screaming. And like the kid is running around doing whatever they want. The level of patience that parent has, is that not possibly determined by genetics anyway?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think historically people are like, oh, it's just, you either want to...
So what's your point?
You either want to like parent your child or you don't. You're a good parent or you're a bad parent. But each person has different capacities to deal with different situations. And that might be the same for parenting. Again, I think everyone is trying their best, but each person's version of their best is different. For example, I think this perspective comes from seeing you and how you have such lower energy than me.
How is this related to the point again?
Yeah, wait, I'm getting that. If you and I were both parents, let's say we have a kid. Well, let's say we had two kids, one each. We're not together. Just imagine an imaginary scenario. Our kids are exactly the same in terms of how they behave, what they do. They're both going through the shopping center screaming, but I have more energy than you, so I like try and parent my kid better. We know you have less energy than me. That's almost like we know that because we've dated each other for so long. You don't have the same energy to deal with your kid in the same way as I do. What's the outcome? To everyone else's perspective, you look like a shitter parent because your kid's running around screaming more than mine is, even though they're the exact same kid. So your difference in energy level, which is probably genetic, impacts how you parent and the perception that others have of you as a parent. Does that make sense, or is that really complex?
How does that go back to the topic?
Of the kid screaming? So I think my point is it has a lot to do with nature. It's not just nurture. I think even how parents nurture is based on nature. That's my point. Like, your ability to parent and control your kid is based on your energy levels, which is nature. So nurture is impacted in a sense by nature anyway.
But it's more of there is certain, for instance, when people usually do this debate, they consider nurture as in you can train yourself out of certain things that are nature, right? For instance, humans aren't raised speaking English, but through nurture you learn English and then that's how you communicate with your kid. None of that is
Yes.
nurture as in what is controllable by the parent. That's what nurture means. But you're saying what?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yes, I
Nature is
understand.
usually meant to mean what is not controllable by the parent, which is ADHD, which is autism, well, until they do gene editing or something in the next 5 years or whatever. All of those conditions that a kid might have being born with, none of those the parent can do anything about in the first, usually nurture is like first 5 years, the developmental stages of the kid.
Yeah.
That's what
I
nurture
understand.
generally refers to. And it usually refers to things like the teaching techniques or I think that's usually it. Or how you interact with the
Mine
kid
is
or
more
something.
like
What you teach them to play, I don't know,
a
stuff like that.
hypothetical thing. But do you understand my scenario of just you as a parent, you have less energy to deal with your kid than I do? That's so.
Yeah.
In the first 5 years, the nurture element, you would do worse than I would. But ultimately, it's based on nature. This might be a very specific example,
but it's like,
just a situation I
yes,
thought
it
of.
takes more effort, but you can still change it. For instance, 2 kids doing a test in high school. Kids, are they born dumb or are they raised smart through, you know what I mean? Intelligence, is it nature or nurture? Percentage of both, but you don't just give up just because, oh, I'm 5 IQ, I was born 5 IQ points dumber, therefore there's no point studying.
Okay, great question. So why do some people give up and some people don't?
I would say that is 80% nurture, 90% nurture, no, 100% nurture, 100% nurture, actually 100%. 99%, because what if the 1% is they have a mental thing and they literally can't do it?
Interesting. So do you think that
It is taught whether you give up or you continue. It is not at all genetically related, in my opinion.
Interesting.
You're not born a defeatist.
I have no answer to that, and I do not know what is the answer. And that is okay. We do not need to have the answer to everything.
This is very personal opinion based. This is not like, I don't think you can prove this yet.
I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining us in our confusion. There are a lot of parts today that probably did not make it into the vlog because we're so damn tired and my brain is cooked. So it doesn't make sense all the time. But I will see you guys tomorrow, and you will probably not see him because I can guess based on his energy that he will not be here tomorrow. Thanks for joining, guys. See you soon. Good night.